Welcome back. Now, the reason we're playing Euro Truck Simulator again is that that's the game I was playing as I was watching a video of AK's. I was 2 videos behind of his, so my plan was to watch them both while doing some truck driving. But the first one he was watching talked about some stuff that I wanted to add to, so I thought, well, I'll need to put off watching the second one until hopefully I'll get around to it tonight. I've got a few things to do after this. But yeah, so instead of watching a second one at the moment, I'm making one in order to continue that discussion. Now we've just dropped a big huge yacht off at Cambridge in the UK, which of course is absolutely stupid because you wouldn't have so I'm just trying to work out how to get my map. Give me half a second here. Oh, there we go, that's it. Okay, now we're talking. I don't know why you drop a huge yacht off at Cambridge in the UK, because Cambridge is quite a long way from the coast, so I'd say that's a wee bit of a programming error from the people making this game, but it is what it is. And we've picked up a box trailer, which is just a very boring looking trailer. I can show you, it's just a normal old box trailer. I can't even remember what it's carrying, but I chose it because it's going to Poland. And I thought, oh yep, I could enjoy going to Poland. Now we're not going to get there on today's video because we're in the UK at the moment, and from the UK to Poland is a very, very long way, so we're definitely not going to get this trip finished today. But that's okay, we're not really here for the truck driving, we're here for the chatting anyway. So AK's video was talking about different kind of meal ideas that they do at church and things like that, and I thought I'd discuss one of the ones he talked about. I'd never ever been to a meal like that, which is where you sit at the table and you've got to use whatever cutlery is provided. Like it might be an old hand beater to eat spaghetti with, or a fork to eat soup with, or something like that. I've never ever been to a meal like that, but that does sound like fun. But there are two that I have been to, both church-run things, which I thought I'd discuss because they're both quite interesting. Now the first one is a thing called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. So what happens is if you want to attend Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, you put your name forward to the people organising it at church, and you say whether you'd rather be a host or a guest. And if you want to be a host, you say how many people you can host up to. So you could say, well, I can be a host, I can host up to 6 guests, for an example. Okay, and now whatever you say you want to be, you're not necessarily going to be that, but that's just giving them the preference. But often they'll have too many people volunteering to be hosts and not enough people volunteering to be guests. So some of those that volunteer to be hosts will actually end up being guests. And what happens is a week out from the lunch, and it's always done on a, oh, you say, no, I'm running low on diesel, no, I'll fill up when I can. Thank you. So, anyway, when a week out from the lunch, it's always a Sunday lunch after church, you'll be told you're a host and you're hosting this number of people, like 5 guests, or you're a guest. And that's all you're told a week out. And on the actual day, so if you're a host, so like that lunch is at say 12:30, because we have 2 services there at church because we can't fit everyone in for one, so we have the same service twice each morning, and the second service finishes at 12, so lunch might be at 12:30. Now if you're a host, all you know is the number of people that are coming to your place for lunch. You don't know who they are, you just have a number. And if you're a guest, all you're given is an address to turn up to. You know you to be there at 12:30, but you're not told whose house it is. And the people organising it, I mean, part of the whole reason for doing these Guess Who's Coming for Lunch is to help people meet new people in church. They don't necessarily hang out with a lot of things. So you can just about guarantee that the people whose house you end up going to, if you're a guest, for example, isn't someone that you know really, really well from church already. And like, let's say you're a host, and let's say you've been told you're hosting 4 people. Now that could be one family of 4, it could be 2 couples, it could be 4 single people, it could be a family of 3 and a single person. You have absolutely no idea until the people actually turn up to your place for lunch. You've got no idea whatsoever who's coming. You only know a number, and as I said, if you're a guest, you have no idea whose house you're going to, because chances are you won't recognise the address as, oh, that's so-and-so's place. I'm going to so-and-so's place for lunch. Yeah. So they're quite interesting. No, guess who's coming for lunch? They're normally called guess who's coming for dinner. I don't know why, because dinner is generally an evening meal and it's always a lunch meal, but for some reason they call it guess who's coming for dinner instead of guess who's coming for lunch, but I don't know why, but that's what it's called anyway. And the other one, that a church that I went to back in the days when I lived in Whanganui, which is 2.5 hours drive from here. Why is my vehicle? Oh, I didn't realise my vehicle was so damaged that it was going to start playing up like that. I'll have to get some repairs when I can. I'm sure it wasn't that damaged when I started this trip, and I haven't touched anything this trip. Oh well, it can't be helped. Anyway, I know that a lot of my viewers are Americans. They've probably never ever seen a show before on TV called Fawlty Towers. That's Fawlty spelled Fawlty. Now, if you've never heard of Fawlty Towers before, I recommend that you put it into YouTube after this video and watch some clips of Fawlty Towers. It will give you an idea of what it is. It's an English comedy show that played back in, I guess it would have been the 80s that it aired, and it stars a guy called Basil Fawlty who runs a hotel which has like a dining room in it and all this. Anyway, a church I used to go to when I lived in Whanganui ran a Fawlty Towers evening. What they do is they sell tickets, and I have heard of them happening occasionally nowadays, but I don't think they happen so much. And the reason that they don't happen so much anymore is, first of all, too many people are thin-skinned and would take offence at things that go on. I mean, this show, Fawlty Towers, if you watch a couple of clips of that, I'll warn you not to be too thin-skinned, because, some people will take offence at it otherwise. They're bound to. And the second reason that they don't happen so much nowadays, I suspect, is perhaps because of food allergies and things. I don't know whether there's actually more food allergies nowadays or whether people just think they're allergic to things they're not really. But you hear of people who are gluten-free, for an example. I'm sure there are a few people in the world that actually genuinely are gluten-free and can't eat gluten. But I'm sure there's a lot more people that think they're gluten-free than what the actual number is. And food allergies and things like that can be a problem at Fawlty Towers, because you'll be given a menu and you've got choices on the menu on what you order, but the chances of actually getting what you order are reasonably slim. You'll get what you get, basically. So, as I said, if you don't know what Fawlty Towers is, go and watch a clip, and the story will make a lot more sense after you've watched it. Anyway, so you had to buy a ticket if you wanted to come to dinner at this Fawlty Towers evening, and you were told to be at the church, which has a dining area and things, at exactly 7 o'clock on the Saturday night. You were told, do not be late, be there at 7. So we all dutifully turned up at 7 o'clock, and of course in New Zealand we'd all seen the show Fawlty Towers, so we kind of knew what we were in for. We had some idea, but didn't know exactly what was going to go down. So we all turned up at 7, and the church is locked up tight. All the doors are locked, all the lights are out. Is that a rest area? Oh, it is. I don't need rest, but I do need diesel. So we'll go in there. Anyway, at 7 PM when we turn up, which was when we were told to turn up, the place is all locked up tight. So standing around thinking, okay. At 7:10, the guy who's dressed as Basil Fawlty and playing the part of Basil Fawlty, which is the main character of Fawlty Towers, turns up and he says, sorry about that, lost the keys to the place. And with that, he gets a ladder down off the roof rack of his car, sets the ladder up to a window, and you'd think what would make logical sense would be for him to climb up the ladder, climb in, and then go and unlock the door from the inside so that everyone can come in. But alas, no, that's not what happens. Everybody has to enter the restaurant where they're having dinner that night via the ladder through the window. That's how everyone has to get in. Okay, and the doors are unlocked after everyone's in. That have to be for fire safety purposes and things like that. But yeah, everyone has to climb up this ladder and through the window to get in for their dinner. Okay, now people choose a table they want to sit at, and there's bread rolls on the tables, and there's butter on a plate in the middle of the table. I know there was one table that didn't have any knives to butter your bread roll with, but all the other tables did. So you sit down at a table, and whatever table you sit at, that's going to be your table for the entire evening. You're not allowed to change tables. Okay, there's a menu there, and there's about 3 different mains and 3 different desserts, and the reality is they only cook 1 different main and 1 different dessert. So regardless of what you order off the menu, you've probably got a 1 in 3 chance of actually getting what you ordered. Okay, and that's all part of the fun of the evening, of course. So that's not a concern at all. Anyway, the table that I was at, it turned out that yes, we did have the bread buns on the table, and we had the butter knives, but it turned out that the blocks of butter on our table were actually blocks of wood that were painted yellow. So we had to eat our bread rolls without any butter on, because there wasn't any butter on our table. And the thing with Fawlty Towers evening, and when you watch a bit of Fawlty Towers, you'll come to understand this. You do not complain about anything. You do not complain you haven't got butter. You do not complain you haven't got knives. If you complain, you're going to be made a spectacle of, and you're going to be embarrassed, highly embarrassed. Basil Fawlty might end up shouting at you or something before his wife Sybil comes out and starts shouting at him. But basically, it's a big mistake to complain about anything. You just go along with whatever happens. Okay? And I remember it was like all the tables, after you'd eaten your buttered bread rolls, or unbuttered bread rolls in my case. Which one am I going here? Oh, left. Okay, left to this. The mains came out. One table, their mains didn't arrive at that time. So you had all the other tables sat there and ate their mains, while one table was still left waiting. And then, the menus came out again, so you could order the dessert you wanted, even though one table was still waiting on their mains. And then there was a fire alarm that went off, so we all had to trundle outside and then come back in after the fire alarm had gone off. And all this was part of it as well, deliberately part of the evening. And the table that hadn't had their mains yet suddenly got their starters, their mains, and their desserts all come out within about 30 seconds of each other. So they had to eat very, very fast before anything got cold, because all the other tables are still waiting patiently for their desserts. So the whole evening, and as I said, if you know Fawlty Towers, this will all make sense to you. And if you don't know Fawlty Towers, please do go and watch a wee bit of it on YouTube. It's spelled Fawlty, not Faulty. But the whole concept is that yes, you will get fed. No, you won't get a choice of what you get fed, and you may not get it. The service is absolutely horrifically terrible, and that's all part of the fun of it. Okay, that's how Fawlty Towers is meant to be. It's meant to be all about the horrifically terrible service. As I said, our table had blocks of wood painted yellow instead of butter, so we couldn't butter our bread. Just things like that. The whole thing was just one huge laugh after another. But it was a very, very entertaining evening, and that's something that the church I went to up in Wanganui did. I thought I'd share that because AK was talking about different meals and games and things they'd done at church around different meals and things, and that sounded like fun, so I wanted to share what I'd been involved in and what I'd done before. AK also spoke about how at his church they only have one service, everyone comes to one service, and then they do a lunch afterwards that it sounded like there's a roster system, so one family will be put on, and that'll be your week to make the lunch for everyone. And I don't know how often you'd be on the roster, whether it'd be maybe twice a year or something. He didn't actually say how often you roster on, but I imagine it's probably 2 or 3 times a year, but it probably depends on the number of people willing to go on that roster, the number of families willing to do that. But it certainly sounded very, very good. But what our church does instead is we have a cafe at church as well. Now, all of the meals, all of the things on the menu, things that are done more as sharing type meals rather than this is what I want to eat for myself, and that's deliberate to encourage people to commune with one another and actually mingle. It is a actual cafe where you pay to eat the meal there, but it's very, very cheap compared to, say, if you'd gone to a cafe or something in town. We're probably talking 1/3 of the price. It's a very, very cheap meal, and to be perfectly honest, if someone turned up to church who hadn't been to our church before and didn't know that there was a paid cafe on or something, they'd still get to eat there anyway without paying. If in the same way, so I'm just looking for which one has the gates open. It's easier to do that on this view because we're at the Channel, which is the Channel Tunnel. So we're going across from the UK to France. No, the barriers are down on that one. And so the Channel, I believe that's what's nicknamed, the Channel. So it's the Channel Tunnel going underneath the English Channel from the UK to France. And it's a big tunnel. You can catch a ferry, but we're taking the tunnel this time. And how it works is that you don't drive through the tunnel, probably because the risk of fire with hot exhausts and engines and things. So what you do is everyone gets loaded onto trains like this. I'm guessing that these wagons here wouldn't actually be open like that, but I'm not sure, maybe they are. Anyway, so you park your truck up on this train, and the train goes to the Channel Tunnel, and then you unload again. And it doesn't actually have any visuals of going through the tunnel. What it does have, you'll get to see this in just a second. I'll just kill the engine, and so then you choose I want to go to Calais in France, depart, and the ferry works in a similar way. You get to drive onto the ferry and drive off the ferry. It doesn't actually have any graphics of the ferry going across. So there you go, we're now in France. We've just gone across the Channel Tunnel, and what about, back, okay, let's go. Now the port area, we hop on and off these trains that go through the tunnel, looks the same, but you'll notice now we'll have to drive on the other side of the road now. That's one of the things I quite like about Euro Truck Simulator compared to American Truck Simulator, because there is more variety in the types of roads and things. And one of the changes is that we're driving on the left hand side of the road in the UK there, and now that we're in France we're going to start driving on the right hand side of the road, and it will have arrows painted on the road here just to remind people when you first hop on the road, but then you're just going to remember after that. Anyway, so yes, our church has a cafe, and it does cost money, but it's very, very cheap. And if anyone didn't have money, then they could still eat there anyway. The church would just cover that cost. But it's quite good because all the there's no tables that are just set up for 2 or 3 people. They're all set up for 6 people or more, 6 to 8 people per table. So if you're a group of, let's say it's you and your spouse there, so there's only 2 of you, you're going to end up at a table with 6 other people from church, and things. And so again, it achieves the same purpose as this, the way that AK's church does it with the shared lunch and a different family putting it on, and that it's a very, very social thing, and the whole reason for doing it, the whole point of it. So here we go, Calais, Paris this way. Of course we're actually heading to Poland, but we have to go through, I must hit that truck there. Oh, now, okay, so, heading down this way. I hate it when you miss the turning on the map, and you end up having to go a long, long way, out of your way, because you went the wrong way somewhere. That's right. So yeah, the way our church does it with a cafe, it serves exactly the same purpose as what AK's church lunches do, of having people get to know one another, and I think it's really, really great. Slightly different way of doing it, but probably no better and no worse. Equally as good, I'd say. So I've told you now about the Fawlty Towers evening, and about the Guess Who's Coming for dinner, which is actually lunch. and about how our cafe works. That's all I'd really planned to talk about in this video. I do know that the last trucking video I did, I think it was AK again, mentioned that I should put my hat on that's on the dash there, and unfortunately I don't have the ability to do that. It's just a decoration thing. If I just pull over to the side of the motorway here for a second, I did promise I would show around my truck a wee bit. So I've got the what are they called, hanging off my mirror there, I can't think of the name of it. Those characters, the yellow ones with the blue ovals on, I can't think what they're called at the moment. I've got Odie on the dash there. If you've ever seen Garfield cartoons, you know that Odie is the dog. And a wedding photo. I've got a hitchhiker there. I've got a sleeping unit. I've got magazines there. I've got a cell phone. I think that's about all I've got there. I've got my wallet on the dash there as well. So that's my truck from the inside. And we'll go and have a look at the truck from the outside. I've already shown you this truck from the outside. Still the same truck as I was running last time. So nothing new to see there. And now we'll get back on the road, heading for Poland. But yes, so I've now told you about these meals sort of thing that I've been involved in, and I've shown you my truck interior. If I'm back on farming for the next video, then I'll have to do some reversing of a combine harvester header trailer. Show you how I do that, getting into paddocks, trying to destroy the least amount of crops possible. But I don't promise to be back on farming for the next video. I am still doing a lot of farming. I haven't given up on that or anything, but I'm playing a bit of the truck driving at the moment. Plus I downloaded a new rally game the other day, so I'm doing a bit of rally driving as well. But I've got to be honest, the rally driving isn't as easy to do when you're making a video, because with rallies you really need to listen to the co-driver's directions, and the co-driver tells you what corners are coming up and how sharp they are and things. And it's very hard to listen to your co-driver and talk to your viewers at the same time. So I tend to not really do the rallying when recording or anything. But I will get back, and I mentioned why I was doing the tracking videos and why I got them back into that. Oh, vehicle malfunction again. Good grief, we're going to have to fix that. That slipped my mind. So if we come to a city that's big enough to have a mechanic, we will call in there and fix our truck. Otherwise we'll just have to live with this for a bit longer. But I'm not going to live with this all the way to Poland, I'm sure of that. Okay, well I might call this video quits now, because I've been going for about 23 minutes. Thank you all for joining me. Bye now.